You know, I don't know if there's ever been a case where a 14-win team is on the outside of being a division winner and will have to start the playoffs on the road. But that's exactly what's going to happen between the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. Now, everybody knows that it is a huge game in Week 17. Can you believe that we've come this far? We went from just making the playoffs, almost making the playoffs, to the third seed, to now where we are in a battle for not only the first seed, but winning the NFC North for the second consecutive time. And one team, either the Detroit Lions or the Minnesota Vikings, are going to have to start their road to the Super Bowl on the road. Now, I'm going to say it's going to be the Detroit Lions for two reasons. One, because we control our own destiny. And what did Dan Campbell say last year? All roads go through Detroit, and he did not tell a lie. So because of that, I'm going to hold him to it, and believe that the Detroit Lions are going to take care of business and make sure that the road to the Super Bowl for the NFC goes through Ford Field. So the Detroit Lions have two different situations that's going to play out for them. We're going to take a look at this real quick. Here are the current standings. The Detroit Lions have the first seed. As you can see here, there are 3 playoff spots available in the NFC. Right now, the Detroit Lions have an advantage over the Philadelphia Eagles, who are the second seed. The Detroit Lions are the first seed. The 5th seed is going to be the Minnesota Vikings. Now, the Detroit Lions are going to be, again, either number 1 or number 5. I thought they could be number 2 when I made the video a couple nights ago, but that would be impossible because you can only be 1 through 4. You have to win the division. And if the Detroit Lions are not going to be number 1, that means they didn't win the division, which means that the Minnesota Vikings won the division, which would drop the Detroit Lions all the way down to 5. The Green Bay Packers have pretty much settled into the 6th spot. There is a way that they could drop the last 2 games and be outside of that spot, I believe. And then here is what the playoffs are going to consist of. Right now, the Rams they're not in the playoffs as of yet. I believe if the Seattle Seahawks, which are playing at this very moment, if they drop an L, this could change, and they could now be where they have clinched the playoff spot and have won the NFC West. The Niners and Cardinals were eliminated this past weekend in Week 16. It's going to come down between the Rams and the Seahawks. Now, here's the thing. Let's go down to the Seahawks real quick. If the Seahawks lose this and they drop to 8-8, then that means that the worst that the Rams could be would be 9-8, which means that basically, I believe the Seahawks would have to win the last game, but I'm not too keen or familiar with what's going on in the West. The Falcons, it's the winner of the South is either going to be the Atlanta Falcons or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Pretty much the Commanders have locked in this 7th seed. So here is what the Detroit Lions are currently looking at. Right now, what I've gone through, the Lions have the first seed they are going to beat the San Francisco 49ers this Monday. I actually do have the Green Bay Packers winning this game with really no bias. The Green Bay Packers are still playing for something, even though they have clinched a playoff berth. But they're still they're not just gonna, just kill over and die. They're still playing for something. So this is how I think it's gonna go. And then Week 18, you already see now that the Detroit Lions, I have them winning that game at home. Ford Field is going to be insane. I'm going to try to be there, even if I have to affirm the tickets or pay overtime. And then you have these two situations right here. The Philadelphia Eagles, they have an off chance to be the first seed, but that means that we would have to lose 2 games and the Minnesota Vikings would have to lose 1. So if we lost to the 49ers, then this is a different conversation. Now, we already know that the Detroit Lions can wrap up the NFC North and the home field advantage if the Minnesota Vikings lose on Sunday and the Lions win Monday. But what if that does not happen. Here's how the Detroit Lions would drop to the 5th seed and would have to start on the road against either the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to tell you right now, due to several things, I think I would rather us play the Falcons simply because I would try to go to that game, and I do not want to be outside in Florida and at Tampa Raymond James Stadium. I don't, but you know, we'll see. But what would have to happen? Okay. So the Detroit Lions, again, locked in the playoffs. They're not going anywhere. They're either going to be the 1st seed or the 5th seed. Right now, we went out, we get the 1st seed. We get a little help from the Green Bay Packers on Sunday, week 17, we get the 1st seed. Here's how it could differ, though. If we go to week 16, and let's say that the Minnesota Vikings, they win this game, okay, and we lose this game, all right? Now we go to week 18. If this game right here, if we lose this game, we drop all the way down to the 5th seed, and the Minnesota Vikings will take over the 1st seed. If we win this game, again, it's no big deal. No matter what happens in week 18, if the circumstances go like we've already predicted, that is how the Detroit Lions, then we would have something. So it's either going to be that we're playing for everything in week 18 or absolutely nothing. And we're watching Teddy Bridgewater and Hendon Hooker split halves. That's going to be the case. But the Detroit Lions are either going to, all roads are going to go through Detroit. And if the playoffs ended like this, which is pretty much what I think it's going to be, because I think the Washington Commanders are going to win in week 18. And I also believe I have them winning against the Atlanta Falcons in week 17. Now, let's just have some fun. So that will put them as the 6th seed. And like this, so it would go like this. This is how I think it would go. This would probably be the game of the week, in my opinion. No, actually, all of these would be. But I think this one and this one would be the game of the week. So the Detroit Lions would face the 7th, 6th, or 5th seed, or if the 4, 5, 6, or 7 is what they would do. So I could see the Green Bay Packers, or I could see any one of these road teams getting but wouldn't this be something? Getting getting a 1st round victory. I didn't even peep this out. That would be crazy. If the Detroit Lions, if the Detroit Lions are going to SoFi to start, wouldn't that be something? Wow. Because I'm like, wow, narrative, right? So the Detroit Lions go, so let's see. Let's have the Minnesota Vikings win in week. So then we're going to play Stafford and the Rams. Oh my God. This is something I did not see coming. I did not see this coming at all. But for that to happen, then that means that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the 3rd seed. And for that to happen, then they would have to beat the Panthers, and they would have to also win against the Saints. Both of those things are probably going to happen. But this is crazy. So, we talked about the Matthew Stafford narrative. We talked about that. A lot of y'all think it's over. It is not over. And that tells you right there that it is not over. There's a way that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can come up and have the 3rd seed, push LA back to the 4th seed. The Detroit Lions could fall to the 5th seed and travel to SoFi Stadium in a absolute rematch, pretty much not seeding wise, but a rematch of last year's wild card round. That would be crazy. So let's go with that hypothetical. Let's go with both real quick, and then we'll wrap up the video. So let's go with the hypothetical of what we have on the screen now. The Minnesota Vikings, the San Francisco 49ers, which is not going to happen, but the San Francisco 49ers pull out a win. Or you know what? Let's do this. Let's make the Detroit Lions win this game and the Minnesota Vikings lose this game. All right? And then we'll go in week, because I think that's more of a reality. And then we'll give, oh, that's right. We already get that's right. I forgot. We would have the 1st seed anyway, as long as we win against San Francisco. So we have to do it that way. So let's give the Minnesota Vikings that win and give the San Francisco 49ers that win. Okay. And then I think what I did is, right. Okay. That's how it was. All right. So let's take this 1st seed right here. So Minnesota Vikings would get the bye week, and then we would have to travel to SoFi. We would play the LA Rams, and Green Bay Packers would go into Raymond James Stadium, and this will be a good game. This will be a really good game. Hopefully, Jalen Hurts could be back by then, but that would be a great game. If the Detroit Lions won this game, and if any road team won, that road team would then go face the Minnesota Vikings at home. That's how that would go. So any wild card winner that's on the road. Now, if the home teams won, then that means the LA Rams would go in the second round and play the Minnesota Vikings. So I think that's probably how it would go. Now, let's switch that. Let's go to week 17, have the Detroit Lions win that game, flip everything up. Then all of it, wow, the Minnesota Vikings could be the 6th seed. So this thing is juicy. It really gets juicy. Wow. All right, so that would mean that the Vikings lose both games. So if the Vikings lost to us and the Green Bay Packers, then they could drop to the 6th seed. Wow, and the Green Bay Packers could be the 5th seed. Then they would play the Rams. The Minnesota Vikings would play the 3rd seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this looks like this is going to be the matchup. So it's going to be a rematch of last week's 16 game. This time, they're going to have to go to Lincoln Financial. That's going to be a good game. That's probably the most exciting game I'm looking forward to, because this is pretty much set while we're waiting on the division, the winners of this game. But in order to put the Vikings as the 5th seed, we have to give them a win over the Green Bay Packers, and that will put them as the 5th seed. So, man, this is kind of tough. So it's a lot of different ways it could go. But the Detroit Lions have 2 scenarios. Scenario 1 is they're the 1st seed and all roads go through Detroit. Scenario number 2 is they are the 5th seed and they have to play on the road. The thing about being the 5th seed, let me go back, and I want to make the Detroit Lions the 5th seed again. So we're going to give them a loss in, okay, here we go. So let's go back to the original timeline, the one that I was saying originally. Only difference is the Commanders are not here. So, but let's just substitute the Green Bay Packers with the Commanders. The Detroit Lions, they win this game. They beat the Rams. If these 2 teams win, then either one of these teams would go face Minnesota. We would then play, if 6 or 7 wins, they would go play Minnesota. We would either go play Philadelphia or the 3rd seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So let's say the Green Bay Packers won this game. They automatically go play Minnesota. Here's how we could host. We could host the Washington Commanders if they pulled that off. And then let's say we beat them, and then the Green Bay Packers were to beat the Minnesota Vikings. Then we would host the Packers in the NFC title game at Ford Field. So home field advantage is a big deal for several reasons. One, this is why I really, really hope that the Lions, that all roads do go through Detroit. One, you get a free game. I call it a free game to the Super Bowl. Most teams have to play 3 games, and to get to the Super Bowl, we would have to only play 2. In addition to that, no matter what happens throughout the rest of the playoffs in the NFC, you never leave home. You never leave home. And I know Ford Field, who has never hosted a NFC title game, will be rocking. I guarantee you they will max capacity. Whatever the maximum is before you get to a fire hazard is what will happen at Ford Field. It will be as loud, the loudest as you ever heard. I could not imagine. And when we won that thing going to the Super Bowl in Detroit, we get to have the celebration in Detroit, the NFC celebration in Detroit, the same thing that the San Francisco 49ers did in 2023. This stuff is amazing. Absolutely live for this. But this channel is made possible by viewers, subscribers, and members just like you. You can be anywhere else on YouTube, but you choose to rock with me. We have built the foundation, and you guys continue to build on it. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions. Let me know what you think. It's a whole host of scenarios that could happen. I think it's going to tighten up a little bit after this game, but after this, we'll know it's either going to be everything or nothing. One last thing. Just think about this. This is a hat and t-shirt game for the Detroit Lions. If if right now somewhere in some warehouse in some boxes there are NFC North champion shirts already made, just waiting on it to happen. Just think about that. Meyer probably has in their stock. Somebody who works at Meyer has probably seen these shirts. And if the Lions win, they probably will be, if everything, Lions win and Packers lose, they probably will be for sale immediately. But, one last thing. So I lied. One last thing. If you, instead of going with the Brock Purdy shirt, they made, which to my surprise, they made a Detroit Lions playoffs. They made a shirt that says 2004 playoffs, Detroit Lions. And I'm like, you know what? They have those shirts and hats if you want, though. I think I'm going to wear that to San Francisco. A little, jab at the Niners since we're going to the playoffs and they are not. Anyway, take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions.